Hello! So this evening we are taking a look at the Cessna 404 Titan that comes with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. So let's have a look around it. We're parked on the ground at Emerainville on the outskirts of Paris. So I thought it might be interesting to take it for a flight, go and have a fly around Paris with it and then see how we get on. So I'm just going to go and remove the engine covers and the chocks and the pitot tube covers. And we'll see how we go. So it's a nice looking airplane, isn't it? So I think it's made by Coronado. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously it's been licensed to be delivered with the simulator. So it comes with various different versions. There's a cargo version. This is the passenger version. There's also an air ambulance version. Whoa, what's happening to the views? So let's go and have a look around it. For some reason there's an F-18 parked next to us at this small little airfield on the outskirts of Paris, but oh well. So yeah, if we press Shift and C, we can go and jump inside and have a look around and see what we've got. So the cockpit is wonderfully made and it looks old, it looks a bit beaten up, and I haven't got a problem with that at all because I think airplanes like this are very cool. So we've got control over the two throttles. I'm actually going to change my control scheme slightly. I'm going to go into the settings for my quadrant, and I've got a setting that sets me up to have airplane controls which are basic, throttle and propeller. There we go. So save and back and back. So now I will find I can control both engines and the RPM on the two sticks that I have available to me, which is good. Okay, so let's go and get this started up. So we're going to put the mixture to rich on both engines. We're going to go and have a look down between the seats and set the right-hand tank and the left tank as required, and then come back and sit in our normal seat in the cockpit. And we're going to pop the yoke off just for a moment to have a look around. So if you've seen the 414 in Flight Sim 2020, this is going to seem mighty familiar. So this is its predecessor, so it's necessarily a little bit more basic. So we'll go and put the battery on and we'll turn the alternators on. We'll go and put the nav light on just to tell anybody nearby that we're in the aeroplane. And we'll just go and have a look and see what we've got here. So windshield alcohol, anti-ice. You can hear things coming to life in the aeroplane around us. Got the avionics bus, the pitot heat, stall heat. You've got various breakers. I don't think the breakers are operational, but they're there anyway. So you've got the mags for the engines, which obviously we'll need to advance. And then you've got some primers, so we can we go either way with the primer? Yes, we can. So we'll just run the primer for a few seconds and then we'll have a go at starting the engine. So if this is a Coronado airplane, it's going to be necessarily dumbed down a little bit. So we just lost that engine. Oh no, it's still running. It's just running very quietly and very slowly. So we'll go and start this engine. Sounds good. So we've managed to do that with the propellers on minimum speed. So we'll speed the propellers up. It's interesting that we were able to start it in such a manner. Okay, so then we're going to go and calibrate the altimeter. It looks like it's fine. And then go and turn the avionics on now, I suppose. So we come back down here and we can go and turn the avionics bus to on, and you will see the GPS's fire up. So in terms of an autopilot, you get a flight director, which you can see is there. Autopilot master switch is down the back of the central console. So if I just sit on the parking brake for a moment and lift these levers out to warm the engine up. So you've got the master on-off switch for the autopilot. You've got a turn knob. You also got a pitch control knob. But on top of that, you've got a heading bug. So it's got heading mode. It's got nav mode, so it can chase either a GPS or a navigation radio track. You get a Garmin GNS 530 and 430. There's a small bug in them though, and I'll show you that. Let's go and put the transponder onto standby for the moment. We've got a weather radar over here. So we'll go and put it onto standby for the moment until it warms up. So yes, you can do back course. It can track VORs and localizers, so you can use it for approach mode. So you've got glide slope as well as localizer lock, which is good. So over here we've got the OBS, which obviously corresponds with the OBS button here, and we've also got the nav selector between. It's the same thing as the CDI button basically, so we can use VLOC if we wish to. And we're not going to program a definite plan in. We'll do it point to point, but then we'll fly off of it during our flight. So I just want to show you something about the 530. There's a bit of a bug in that you can't use the keyboard, so you have to use the proper way of operating the 530. So let's have a quick look at the map. We are at Emerainville, or Emerainville, I think it's actually pronounced. So Lima Foxtrot Papa Lima. So if we go and press the flight plan button and put the focus in and roll the inner knob, you will find that you can't click on the keyboard. So Lima Foxtrot Papa Lima. So we roll the inner knob, and then this should filter on the final character. Emerainville, there we go, or Emerainville. So LFBL, and we're going to go to Cormeilles en Vexin. So Lima Foxtrot Papa Tango. So again, we rotate Lima Foxtrot, and we want Papa and Tango. So we can roll through the alphabet to get to P, and then we roll through the alphabet to get to T. We could have gone backwards, it would have been faster, wouldn't it? And there we go. Press enter. So we've got our basic route in, just so we've got something on the map to go on. Okay, so we've been busy warming the engine up for the last few minutes. Let's just have a look and see what gauges we've actually got. So we've got indicated airspeed, we've got clock, we've got attitude indicator, altimeter, vertical speed, HSI and CDI obviously, turn coordinator and slip. Nav instrument, I think it's nav 1, we'll find out while we're en route. We've got a radar altitude, which is interesting. We've got manifold pressure, RPM, and some interesting instruments over this side. I'm not entirely sure what all of these are. So fuel flow, exhaust gas temperature, and you've got oil pressures and temperatures. You've got fuel quantity over here, and then the 6-pack for the co-pilot as well. Okay, so shall we go and get started? So I'm just saying we'll put the taxi light on. Did we put the transponder on yet? So we're going to turn it on now. We're about to taxi out so people can actually see where we are. I don't think we need to do anything else. We'll put the pitot heat on when we get to the runway. So let's put the yoke back on for the moment. Come off the parking brake. So just before we get rolling, I'm going to go and try out the head tracking, because it will make it a lot nicer to watch than using the normal views. Okay, so we can actually see over the nose now and look around at this very pretty aeroplane. Well, I think it's pretty. So I'm going to scoot us slightly forward in the seat so we get to see out past the window. So this is the part of the Orbex, or Paris VFR, make a collection of airfields around the outskirts of Paris. So this is one of them. There's about 20-something airfields in the pack. It's very, very good value for money. So it's become a bit of a favourite of mine for just hopping around between different airports to try aeroplanes out. And it's now available for 2024 from Orbex. Yeah, there's hardly a breath of wind. Now, the reason for that might be that we've got the live weather turned off. I'm just going to go and check. Wrong button. Still learning. Old habits die hard. So we want, yeah, we got it on clear skies. So we want live weather. And let's see what the weather's going to look like. So, okay, we're now at the wrong end of the runway. So maybe we will change it just for today's flight and put ourselves on few clouds, which will give us a nice view of the ground. And also we get hardly any wind to deal with. Okay. So we're going to go for a minimal amount of flaps. So parking brake just briefly, and we wanted to go and put the pitot heat on and the anti-collision lights on, and we'll put the landing lights on as well, just so we can go and have a look at them. Do we have to roll? Yeah, we have to roll the mouse off forwards on that. So should we go and have a look outside and see what it looks like with those lights on? They're not super bright, are they? In fact, that's not lit up at all, or not that you can see in the bright sunshine. That's interesting. So whether they actually work or not is another matter. Let's go and turn the weather radar to on now. Transponder's already on. Okay, so before we get going, should we go and pull the heading bug around? At least to the direction we're going. I apologise for the head tracking being a little bit jerky. It's because the Tobii Eye Tracker drivers aren't available yet. So full throttle. And rotate. Gear up. Okay, so you should find the sights of Paris are out this way. Just cruise along quite slowly, then we get to have a look around as we go. So let's try, can we open the storm windows? Not while we're in flight apparently. That's interesting. So we just come up to 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet. So it will happily cruise along quite slowly. Look, we're just doing over 120 knots. If we open it up a little bit. Take it up to about 1,900 RPM. About 32 on the manifold pressure. A gentle climb at the moment, but yeah, it doesn't accelerate wonderfully. It's not the fastest aeroplane in the world, but it's very, very smooth. So you can see the Eiffel Tower out in front of us. So let's try out some of these autopilot modes. I'm just going to trim the aeroplane out. And then we'll go and stop the head tracking for a moment, just so we can concentrate on this. So, remember we said the master mode for the autopilot's over here. So it's going to do roll and pitch hold. So it's put flight director up, the autopilot's on, so it does roll and pitch hold by default. So then we'll need to get the heading bug going the direction we're going, and then we can go to heading mode. You can see we're slightly descending at the moment, so before we go to altitude hold, say if we wanted to bring ourselves up to 1500 feet, we can roll back on this and command some climb right. It's quite slow at reacting, so you don't have to be too careful about it. So there we go, 500 feet a minute, and then when you're at the altitude you want, you just hit the altitude hold button. So we're slowly coming up to 1500 feet. And there we go. So obviously heading hold mode on the autopilot is very straightforward. You just move the heading bug and the aeroplane chases it on the HSI. So if we go and move our course round as well, you'll see that working. Although it's very slow, there's no acceleration on the knobs, which is a bit of a shame. So what if we wanted to tune into the VOR? Actually, let's have a look around Paris first, and then we'll look around afterwards. So let's go and look on the outside view. It's a very pretty aeroplane, isn't it? So I'm going to raise those flaps up. We'll see how fast it goes in a clean configuration. So we'll go and just go shift and Q to drop us back down in. So here we go, look, it's actually, the flaps are quite draggy then. I didn't really anticipate that. I thought the first stage of flaps might not be quite that draggy, but it makes a huge amount of difference. So even tootling along, we're not really pushing the engine much. We're almost up to 180 knots, look. We can push the engine out to 35 on the manifold pressure. Obviously normal range is going to probably be about 27, I would imagine. And then turn the RPM down. It's funny, so many pilots notice the RPM and will say, oh, well, that's your volume knob, basically. So we're going to go over the top of Les Invalides in a moment, on the way to the Eiffel Tower, so we might as well do this from outside. Hopefully, photogrammetry. Oh, look, we got a bit of a ship spawning problem on the Seine. So here comes Les Invalides. It's loading it in just about in time. And there it goes, it's just loaded it, look. It's struggling to keep up with us with loading data in. So if we scoot across the cockpit to the co-pilot side, I'll have to say sorry to her in a moment. And we can come off the autopilot and roll. And have a look at the Eiffel Tower as we roll around. There's another ship having a bad day. Okay, let's press shift and space to center our view back up. Let's get the head tracking on. It makes this sort of thing so much easier. Okay. So for general direction of head tracking, OpenTrack works okay. It's just no good at being accurate. So we've got the Seine down here, full of ships that are having a bad day. Obviously they need to work on that. Oh, this one's completely beached itself on the side of the Seine. So there's the gardens from the Eiffel Tower. Les Invalides again. So my geography of Paris is not what it should be. Many years ago I would have been able to tell you most of the different quarters of the city, but I don't know them anymore. It's gone from my memory. I've only ever been there for a couple of long weekends. Okay, so looking around at the GPS, if we go and increase the range, then we can see where we're wanting to go eventually, which is out this way. So I thought it might be fun to do a bit of VOR navigation as well while we're here. So let's level ourselves out in a moment when we're going roughly the right direction. So we are almost going the right direction now. So I'll go and enable the autopilot. I've got a button map to do it. And we'll go and rotate the heading bug. So we'll go heading hold mode. And we'll press altitude hold before we slam into the ground. We're going very fast at 200 miles an hour. So we want to play with the nav radios. So there is a VOR over here. Okay, so if you zoom in on it, we can see it's, oh actually no, it's not a full one though, is it? If you go and look at this in LittleNavMap, it'll tell you, look, it is a VOR, but it hasn't got any of the DME or anything like that on it. So let's go and tune it in anyway, 11160. So, come down here, switch over, 11160, switch it to active. We're in VLOC mode, so this is representing it now. If we swing the course round, which is a bit slow because it's not accelerated at all. There we go. So it's now pointing towards it. Okay. So let's turn that autopilot back off. And fly directly towards the VOR beacon, which is right over the top of the airfield where we want to end up. So let's transfer some of that airspeed we gained into some altitude. So the VOR is there, look, so we've got 11 miles to go. So bizarrely, the GPS is combining with the VOR signal to give us distance measuring via the GPS, so that's all fine. So we're heading back out of the city. So a quick look at the map before we go too far. Okay. So if anybody that knows Paris well, you can see, get your bearings there of where we are, where we're heading. Not got autopilot on, so the plane was busy corkscrewing away from the flight path there. I really like this. There's a couple of little issues, like the they don't appear to have the full working title software installed properly for the Garmin GNS unit, which is a bit of a shame. I actually went and had a look in some of the inherited aircraft from 2020, like the Coronado aircraft. They don't have the working title GNS 530 either. So that's obviously something they're going to need to work on. But for generally flying around, this is very easy to fly. It's very docile, very stable. So before we go and land, we'll do some manoeuvring tests with stalling it and seeing how we get on. So we're about 8 miles out now. So Cormeilles en Vexin. So we should see it before too long. So we'll get a little bit of height. So while we're overhead the airport, we can do some stall tests. So just coming up through 2,000 feet again. Let's have a look from outside. Sounds amazing. how we're doing. Heading more or less towards it. It should be over here somewhere. Here's the airfield by the look of it. Okay, we're still climbing gently, or we were. We're still only a couple of thousand feet. Okay, let's do a basic stall test. We're not going to go for any crazy aerobatics, or I wasn't going to. I guess we could get a bit more height and try that out. So let's go full throttle and full propeller. Get some altitude. Keep an eye on that indicated airspeed. Make sure we don't go too slow as we climb. 3,000 feet. Climbs well, doesn't it? So it's 4,000 feet, so let's go for it. So if we were to... Actually, rather than... We get a klaxon with the throttle if we pull it back without the gear down. So I'm going to pull the propeller speed back instead and feather them. And we're stalling. You can see us sink all of a sudden. So pull the nose up hard. And it's gently falling to the left. Let go. And pull us back out at a sensible rate. Look at the speed increasing. So it was nice and docile, there's that at least. So we'll unfeather the propellers. The sounds were amazing, weren't they? So I'm not going to try a second stall test because we're too low now. I don't want to spend all your day climbing to altitude and throwing the aeroplane back towards the ground again. So let's go and have a look at this airfield. So we are just looping around. So we'll go do a left pattern in along the runway over there. So half the problem with this was going to be slowing down. So we can pull the propeller speed back, which is dropping the speed off quite quickly actually. We can go for gear down. So there's the runway we're going to land on. So first stage of flaps. If we look out the window, we should see them moving. You can just about see them animating over there. And there's the runway. So I really like this aeroplane. It reminds me a lot. Well, it's a Coronado aeroplane, or I think it is, and that would explain a lot about how good the handling is. So if it's anything like the 414, you're going to be looking at about 100 knots, 80 to 100 knots for landing. So let's go for full flaps now. So we don't have any guiding lights by the look of it, so we are visual. And there goes the flaps. So back to 50% throttle, the speed is still dropping. Down to 90 knots, don't want to go much slower than this. up to 75% throttle, and we're just about holding with full flaps, although I'm not running the propellers very fast. So there we go, 75% on the propellers. Just playing with the numbers on the manifold pressure and the RPM to see where it's happy on an approach. Really, you should go for higher RPM speed and then just moderate the throttle. Because then there's two schools of thought with approaches. For people just starting out, tutors will always say to use your power to control descent rate and keep your attitude consistent. See if we can hit the numbers. We're just below 80 knots, look. So it still seems quite happy, but we're not far off stall speed. Because see, I looked down then and then started to drift. It's nice and easy to control though, even at low speed over the runway. It was easy. So let's just continue taxiing. I don't know if there is another taxiway here, so I'm going to turn around. And lift the flaps up while we can, and we'll go and park over by the hangars over there, behind the farmer's field. So obviously this aircraft is going to be used in some of the missions in the career mode of Flight Simulator for things like air ambulance. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's very easy to fly. If anything, it's restored my confidence a little bit in the aircraft that come with the simulator. Let's go and find somewhere to park, shall we? My word, that's a busy flying school. We'll just go and park down the far end, I guess. So are they 152? So there's a Baron over there. 172. There's a VL3, are they called? Another Baron. Cub. A Cessna 170, is it? Yeah, we'll come back around the back of the fuel station and just stop here, I guess. Hispano Suiza Aero Club. So we're not going to actually buy any fuel, but we're going to use it as a place to leave our airplane for a few minutes. Parking brake on. Very cool, nice animations. So we need to go and work our way around the cockpit, switching things off. So I'm going to stop the head tracking and we'll go and turn things off. So pitot heat off, avionics bus off, nav lights off, anti-collision lights off, and the alternators can come off and the mags can come off, and then finally pull the battery and all the fans that are cooling things down and making a bit of a racket in the cockpit go away as well. So there we go. I haven't actually looked around the insides yet, have I? So let's go and take you down through the cockpit, or through the cabin I should say. So this is the passenger version. Looks great, doesn't it? Very nicely done. And you get that classic passenger photograph opportunity here, looking over the pilot's shoulders. Very cool. So there you go. That is the Cessna 404 Titan in Flight Simulator 2024. It's one of the aircraft that comes with it. I really like it. Yes, it's not as good as the 414 that you can purchase, but this comes with the sim, so you can't really complain. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.